So to say the most recent Star Wars trilogy was divisive would probably be putting it generously. Certainly, there are people that like the modern day Star Wars films, each one of them grossing nearly $1 billion. But there are also some duds too. And we saw Star Wars, the Star Wars, a Star Wars soiree losing money. A Star Wars film losing money was bizarre. But you had obviously the great information that Lando Calrissian was actually Pando and loved hooking up with robots. Apparently, that's stunning and brave. That's what everyone needs out of our modern day Star Wars film. But I liked Rogue One. I think Rogue One was accurately rated. The new trilogy, in my opinion, was very uneven, and had an ending that really had a lot of backlash because ultimately Disney didn't know who they wanted to serve. Did they want what Disney wanted going into it? Let me be clear. What Disney thought they could do, what they thought they could do was pander to old Star Wars fans by bringing back decrepit old stars and then simultaneously bring in new fans and you fans by pushing a progressive narrative in their films. What they did was they succeeded in bringing new fans in. They succeeded in bringing old fans back, but they created two groups of fans that hated each other. Then every film going forward from there, they didn't know who they wanted to pander to. You could see with The Last Jedi, they clearly pandered towards new fans. And the old fandom, which is much larger, spent a lot more money on the hobby, have collectibles, have more invested in the series. The old fans hated it. The new fans, the ones that wanted to see old guard changed and made progressive, loved it. There are many people that refer to The Last Jedi as one of the best Star Wars films of all time. Now, I would argue that it's one of the worst, but I understand that, different strokes for different folks. And if you like The Last Jedi, so what? I'm glad you did. If you didn't like it, also, it's up to you ultimately. I would never dump on somebody for liking something. But with the latest trilogy, after the backlash, they decided, okay, let's try to bring it all home with the rise of Skywalker, with Mary Sue Ray, and nobody liked that either. The old school fans kind of liked it as just hey, this is a good old-fashioned Star Wars film, but the new fans were devastated that they didn't get enough of this weirdo, progressive politics, and they didn't get enough of their Mary Sue on screen and a wide variety of other things. Now, it was also not without controversy. As we saw John Boyega, we talked often about how they treated him in China and a wide variety of other things. So, John Boyega comes out and says, I'm done with it. I'm done playing Finn. I'm done. He talked about how he felt like Disney did his character dirty, and I agree with him. And ultimately, Chad moved by John Boyega saying he's done with it. Boyega revealed he has moved on from the character in response to a user comment in his recent Instagram post showing the actor back on set. User TechStevo wrote, Force Finn in action with green lightsaber dressed in black is all I want from the next Star Wars film. Boyega replied, lol, no thank you. I've moved on. That is actually low-key super savage. Imagine an actor just noping out of being in Star Wars. User Sakim wrote, really? Just got those Disney bucks and dipped. Laughing, crying emoji. To which Boyega responded, nope, not into playing one role for too long. I have more to offer than that. That's all. That's a solid response. You don't want to be typecast forever. Then again, I think there's more to it. Another fan wrote, they're bad movies when even you don't want to go back to them. Excited to see your future projects, though. Boyega did not respond to this one, nor other fan messages, as the debate raged on about the quality of the latest films in the franchise and whether Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford were typecast following their roles in Star Wars. I don't think that they necessarily were. However, when a user questioned whether Boyega would ever return as Moses, his breakout role in Joe Cornish's 2011 Attack on the Block, he replied, I haven't played Moses in over a decade. I'd love to revisit him. Now he is awesome. This is not the first time Boyega has expressed a desire to move on from Star Wars franchise. In April, after Twitter user whatever described Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, as embarrassing, Boyega responded, "Embarrassing, lol, you wish. Very fulfilling, some disappointments, but yeah, not that big of a deal. Everyone has moved on." Interesting. The actor's current role include BBC Steve McQueen's series Small Axe and featured film. In June, Boyega made a powerful speech at BLM. Don't care about that. Happy that he's doing his activism. Even John Boyega and I have had our rows, as he might call it, on Twitter. But ultimately, I've supported him. I don't think the actor, in this case, how do I put it? You can't blame Daisy Ridley for Rey. You can't blame John Boyega for Finn. You just can't. If you want to blame Kathleen Kennedy, you want to blame Ryan Roundhead Johnson, who, by the way, deleted his Twitter account. I have a new video on that coming out later today. But interestingly, it could be, as Deserto reports, a function of sequel backlash. Maybe he's just done with the fandom and he doesn't want to deal with it anymore. I certainly would understand that. John Boyega has said he's already moved on from Star Wars and suggested he has no plans to reprise the role as Finn again in the franchise after admitting Disney could have done better with the saga's 9th episode, The Rise of Skywalker. London actor John Boyega appeared as Finn in 3 consecutive Star Wars sequels: The Force Awakens, which was mediocre, The Last Jedi, which was awful, and The Rise of Skywalker, which is only a tiny bit better. Since the conclusion of Disney's new trilogy, they haven't been shy about sharing his mind on the 3-run film either. And by the way, again, Chad moved by Boyega. Not a lot of people will be willing to speak out against, first of all, a Disney movie. Second of all, Star Wars. But ultimately, look, if you're just a popcorn fan of Star Wars, I find it unlikely that you didn't at least moderately enjoy the new trilogy. If you're an entrenched fan of Star Wars, I could definitely see how you'd feel betrayed by certain things and you'd have way more skin in the game. You'd want better out of Disney. I understand that completely. If you didn't have any expectations coming in, though, and you watched them as like, hey, everybody says Star Wars is good, you probably liked all 3, and there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing. Boyega's admission of moving on came after a Star Wars fan commented on a recent post on Instagram calling for the UK star to reappear. He admitted back in April that there had been disappointments in the direction the series took following The Force Awakens. He told The Hollywood Reporter he thought Disney could have done better with it, especially with Finn and Rose. He did add, however, that it had been a very fulfilling role for him, even if he won't be coming back. Despite Boyega's apparent disappointment in the sequel trilogy as a whole, he has been one of the leading voices against fan backlash, directed at his co-stars. After Kelly Tran deleted her Instagram, he took aim at fans. If you don't like Star Wars or the characters, understanding that there are decision makers and going after the actors and actresses will do nothing, he said in a series of tweets ahead of Rise of the Skywalker's 2019 release. A series of tweets that I 100% agree on. First of all, the Kelly Marie Tran, narrative that she deleted her Instagram because of fan backlash is baloney sauce. I never saw any real evidence of that. I saw it come out as a narrative that they could use against fans to blame the fandom, to smear the fandom. I saw that, but I never really saw an overwhelming amount of backlash for Kelly Marie Tran on her Instagram. And it seemed like it was a narrative that the media just made up and she kind of just went with, because that's what actors and actresses do. You don't go against the media. He goes on to say, "You're not entitled to politeness when your approach is rude, even if you paid for a ticket." He later added, "Most fans put themselves in our shoes. It was important," he said, "for them to have a good understanding. There is a process." I agree with all of that. Boyega's next major project could be the sequel to the 2011 British flick Attack on the Block. Just last month, the original movie's writer Joe Cornish told the Script Apart that he had met with John to talk about it. Star Wars alums is also working on 3 new movies, Borderlands and Rebel Ridge, never heard of any of those, as well as a television series, Small Axe, according to IMDb. Boyega will have a voice role in the next Lego Star Wars title. It's not a good look, is it? It's not a good look when your actor, a major actor in your film, by the way, one you propped up here in the United States as proof that you're super progressive and that Star Wars, you know, is for everybody, which it is. You did him dirty. You gave him a crap storyline. You made him basically a cuck in the love triangle, and he wasn't afraid to say it. Now, I think he was very polite in what he said, but think about that. The main takeaway here is that is the absolute state of Star Wars, all right? Where you have major actors in the franchise saying, I'm done with it. I don't even want to be in another Star Wars film. That is a stunning departure from most actors and actresses just 5-6 years ago, talking about how it would have been and it has been their lifelong dream to be in a Star Wars film. In just 3 films, Disney has managed to remove all of the glow in being a part of that franchise, and it truly is sad for the fandom as a whole. Can they right the ship? Certainly. Can they do it without John Boyega? Certainly. But they spent 3 films building up that character, and to have him basically publicly nope out isn't a good look for Kathleen Kennedy. It isn't a good look for Disney. It isn't a good look for Star Wars. And it's going to change the stories going forward. I mean, you remove a major character without giving him really an end, without really ending his story arc. What do you do now? Do you bring back Rose Tico without John Boyega? Just there's no Finn in Star Wars anymore? It's just, whatever. He's just gone. We're not going to talk about it. I suppose Disney's going to do that with Johnny Depp too. So it'll just be another character that nopes out of a stunning, beloved franchise for their own personal reasons, not because Disney makes bad decisions, of course. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.